Okay, so what's the plan today? Well, we've got to the point where we can draw our triangle. We've got the point where we can put some shader on it and turn it into this lovely orange thing. Today, the plan is to turn this triangle into a plane, a square. So we're going to have a square on screen, and then the hard part of that is we're going to try and put a texture on it. That's not as easy as turning it orange. There's going to be a little bit of setup in this to start with. You're going to need to go to the STB website and download STB to put in your vendors. It's a single header file. It's not a massive thing to download. You'll need that. You're going to need to create a texture folder under your main My project and add a few textures in there, something we can load as a texture. If you haven't got any textures, they're on my GitHub site. These exact textures are on there, so you can download them if you want something to play with, if you're following along to that extent. Right, so what do we need to do to put a texture on an object on screen? Well, the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need a texture loader. So we're going to have to add texture .h. Don't want all that on the end of it, and we'll add that into the header file. In the src folder, we're going to want to add the same again. So it will be texture.cpp. Now, because of my laser fast typing skills, I'm going to cheat, and I've already written this out, so I'm going to copy it. And did I actually copy that? I'm going to copy it and paste, because otherwise it will just take too long for me to type it out. I'll come back through it in a minute and explain what we've got here and what we're going to do with it. Right, texture CPP, this one. I'll have that as well. Right, so we've got that in there. Now what we've got here is we've now turned this into a class. So we're writing a class here. Texture, and all we're going to pass to that is the path of the file we're going to load, the image file we're going to load. These two bits here basically prevent you from loading the same texture twice. This next bit binds the texture to a texture unit, which we'll see in a minute in the CPP page. This unbinds it all to clean it up and free up the memory, etc. This is just a check to make sure whether it's loaded or not. This is the texture ID that we're going to use, and these are just some variables that we need: the height and the width and the number of channels in our texture. So in here, we're going to come in here. This is going to get our path. We're going to flip the texture, because textures, OpenGL reads textures in a way that most textures are written slightly different to how OpenGL reads them. You can look it up on that other website. One of them reads them from top to bottom, and the other one reads them from bottom to top. And 99 times out of 100, you have to flip the texture to get it to show the right way up. This is just the STBI load bit, where it's going to get the path of the file, the width of the file, the height, and the number of channels in it. If we don't get that data, then let's tell it that we've got a failure and why it failed. If it does find the path, we'll just say that it's been loaded successfully. This is where we use the number of channels, so we know whether it's a grayscale or a bitmap, or a JPEG, or it's a PNG or 32-bit bitmap. And then we generate we've now got our texture ID. So we now go through this, which is the same as for loading the triangle pretty much, with the differences we're using the format, width, height. That I format comes from here for whichever one it's going to be. Then we come down through here, we set these bits. They're not really going to do anything for us today. Repeat. GL repeat basically means if you're texturing a very large item, you could repeat the image across the item. Linear and bitmap, these are for when, again, it's for when you're drawing massive, like a terrain or something, would use this, because the further away it gets, it uses a smaller image or something. Not 1,000,000% certain, but I'm fairly sure that's how that works. Then we clean up the data and empty the thing, and also we free the data from the load image bit. This is just to clean up at the end. So if it's the texture ID isn't 0, so if it's above 0, then we delete it all and reset the texture to 0, texture ID to 0. This is where we bind the texture, and this is where we so I lost there. This is where we unbind the texture. It'll all become clear as we go on. Right, what do we need to do to make any use of that? Well, the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go to the shader H in here, and we need to add on here, we need to add, this will be what we need to do is we need to be able to set a uniform int. Set uniform int. That's clever how that knows that. So we need that, and then we're going to set that in, create a definition in the shader CPP file, and here let's hope it fills in the blanks. It does. Let's just check that's correct with my other copy so we don't have a mess up as we go along. Nope, that's correct. So we can press the tab key on that to select that. Now the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go into shader frag, and we're going to have to make one tiny little change in here. We need to do, this has to become, let me see, what have we got on there? I've got to just quickly read through that. That's not quite the same as what I've got on my other one. I don't know why. We need to have in there invec3 new color, and which was that there anyhow. I didn't read that correctly. Oh, how did I manage to do that? Oh, never mind. Invec2 text chord, and last but not least we need uniform sampler 2D, but it's not that, it's, I've called it, so let's keep it at that because that'll be easier. And then in here we need to do this will become we're not putting that on the end of it at the moment, that will come in later. So it's that, we need that for our fragment shader. No alterations to the vertex shader. Next we need to think about how are we going to use this. We need to use this, so we got that and that with no errors on. So in main, I've included the website where that STB image is on there. We need to add, in main we need to add the header obviously for the text texture H. So this will be hash include and up one level header. Oh, hang on, I'm spelling that wrong. Header slash texture H. That gets us that. Then we need to go down to where we load the textures from last time in here, and then we can do shader.use and we also want shader set uniform. Nope, we don't want that at all. We want set uniform int, and then that becomes my texture. And then basically like that. Oh, like that. So that then sets the texture, and then we need to come down under that little gap, so we can now do texture text, and then we want we're going to do, mine is going to simply be texture slash, I'm going to use my GitHub one because it's I think it's a really pretty picture. GitHub.jpg. So that's that. Then under that, what we need to do is we need to check if it's loaded. So we're simply going to do if not text is loaded. We can print out an error if it failed to load texture. Could put the name in there if you wanted to. If it loads, then we'll say it's successful and tell what ID it's loaded. I'm just going to pop up here and change that to in the anticipation we're successful. got to think on the positive side of things, especially when you're as bad at this as I am. Right, now the next bit is this piece here. We need to change this. Once again, because of my laser fast typing, I'm going to cheat slightly and copy and paste what we need to put in there from here, because it's quite a lot that needs to be put in there. So let's take that, Control C, let's get back in here, and we'll simply do that and go V. let's straighten that up a bit. So what do we get here? So we've got the positions, so these are the positions, the first three. The next three can be used as colours or normals. We're using them as colours at the moment. And the last two are the texture coordinates, UVs for the texture coordinates. Now we do need to make a change in the next bit, because we're going to have to add up here, we're going to have to add an EBO, which is an element buffer object. So we need EBO added to that. Oh, we better put a little comma in there or it's going to complain. And we also need to change this slightly, because we're now going to use a slightly different method to load this. So in here we're going to GLU int. I said this was going to be a long one, didn't I? And we're going to need to do this. So this is the loading of the triangles. So basically what we're going to have is we're going to have two triangles sat on top of each other to make up our square, and this basically says the order in which the triangles are going to be drawn. We then need to go down and add our EBO, sorry, I'm getting confused here. So under the vertex we're going to come in here and we're simply going to add GL gen buffers, GL gen buffers 1 EBO. It's really clever how this computer knows what I'm going to do next, and then we need to do that. And I'm glad it knows, because like I say, I am so slow at typing. It would be more painful than it is now to watch me struggle to learn how to do this stuff. And right, so that then comes down to the next bit where we need to add, we've got our positions. So this is the positions. We're going to increase this to 3 because we've added the extra position on there. This one now has to be increased to 8. This is the stride, which I talked about last time. So that's the stride, it tells it where it's going to loop back round to start the next iteration. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 3 is the position, so it's 1, 2, 3. Later on this will be X, Y, Z when we start doing some interesting stuff like 3D. Okay, so then the next bit we need to do is we need to add the normal attributes, or the color attributes that we're using, and this is going to be exactly what it GL vertex attrib pointer, that one there. 1, 3, 8 and 3 on the end, because we're now, again, we're gonna, this is the, we're using these 3 there, 1, 2, 3, and the index starts 3 in, so it's 1, 2, 3, and then we're adding those 3 in. So this is really complicated. There are better explanations of this than what I'm giving. And last but not least, we need this one, which is our text coordinates, and again it's 2, so we're using 2, which are these 2 here, and it's 6 along, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 along before we use them. Okay, and we then need to do that one there, and that's all we need to do in there. Thank God, that was enough. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come into our main loop now, Now I've got to make a correction in here because this is actually the wrong way round. That needs to be above that. If you're doing it by the book, that should come first. Apparently, that's what I've been reading up on. And then we're not going to be using this now because that's for setting the color. We don't need that. And the next bit we're going to do is I'm going to come down here, text.bind. That'll do, bind 0. So we're binding the texture to unit 1, and we're coming through here. We want that. This then becomes, we're not drawing elements now, we're not drawing arrays, we're going to draw elements. So it's draw elements. Nope, spelt wrong. I spell everything wrong. If I could spell, I'd be dangerous. And we want to come through here, and then this will be, we're going to draw 6 because we're now drawing 6 indices, vertices rather. This will be GL unsigned int. Unsigned by unsigned int, and it's 0. And then what we do then, GL bind vertex arrays, we set that back to 0, and then we do, because we now have a slightly different thing, we can now do texture. Do double dot unbind, so we unbind the textures there. We're setting, we could, if we wanted to keep it clean, we could do GL use program and set that to 0 as well. So basically what that's doing is it's setting the shader program back to 0 at that point. Now, I wonder how many errors we've got, because we're bound to have some in that lot. I can't believe I've done that without creating an error somewhere. Let's be brave and click the button, see what happens. It's bound to error, because I've rushed trying to do it as quick as I can to get it so it doesn't drag on too long. There we go. Oh, that's my computer. I must try to find out why this does that. I think it's something to do with my antivirus software, and I still haven't got round to looking at it. Oh, nearly. Oh, close. It says the texture is loaded. Error texture not good as input. Previous stage. Okay, I'm not sure what that's to do with. Shader program linker failed to link program. Okay, so let's do some debugging. There's nothing on there. So what have we done wrong there? Shader frag. Let me just check that with the one I've got on my other machine to make sure we're somewhere handy. Outvec 4, frag color, invec 3, ucolor, invec 2, text chord, uniform sampler 2D, my texture. Yeah, that's all correct. Shader H, we added that. let's just double check that that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Shader CPP uniforms, is that correct? What have we got there? Program return. Yeah, that looks right. That's same as what I've got on the other one. It's the same as that. Okay. There's no errors on there because that's just a simple copy and paste, so I haven't messed that up on there. There's no errors on there, so it's got to be something I've done in here. So what have I done in here? That's the picture we're trying to load, and let's go back to main on here. I'll have to come back to this because otherwise it's just going to go so long. Textures, GitHub. GPG. Why have we got that on there? We've got that on there. What have I done? I can't see what I've done. Can't be that because we copied and pasted it. Can't be that because we copied and pasted it. Have I made a mess of one of those bits there? Vertices, indices, 0, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 2, 8, 8, 8, 0, 3, 6. I can't see anything wrong with any of that either. This is embarrassing. No, it's not. I'm so used to this. This is the story of my life. This is. I wonder why that's not working then. I wonder what. I can't see that I've missed anything. GL draw elements. GL draw elements. GL triangles. 6. Unsigned in. 0. That's strange. Okay, well I'm going to have to come back to that because I don't know why it's not. And what I'll do is in the next video I'll work out what the error was and point out what I did wrong. Why it's not. It's something to do with the shader program for some reason not linking properly. Text chords not declared. I wonder if that's because we need to have why didn't that load? Just thinking about it. I know why it is. We need to get this open. This was a silly mistake. I hadn't put the bits in here. We need layout, location 1, and that's going to be actually that's a capital C on there or it still won't work. This is the fun bit about debugging. Layout location 2. This is to do with where things appear, and then down here we also need to do out vec 3 U color and out vec 3 text chords. Now theoretically, can we get our square with our picture on it? No, we still won't get it. We get a black one now because I've still got to alter. I've still got to alter this. So this is vec4 pos A1, and we also need to do U color is A color, and we need the text coordinates, those two there, because they're the important bits. Fingers crossed now. Why is that still not doing that? And if I do U color, what have I done wrong? What have we done wrong? A color? Oh, our color. Dear oh dear, oh dear. I'm making hard work of this today. What a story of my life. Yeah! Isn't that satisfying when you eventually get there? But there you go, that just shows you how difficult this stuff can be and how stupid. Oh, click the right button, Clifford. How stupid little mistakes, and you just forget something. You sit there and you think, oh, what have I done wrong? And I'm reading it off of another screen. So how did I manage to mess it up? But you do. Anyhow, even with the mess up there at the end, I hope you found that interesting. How to draw a plain object with a texture on it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a bit of a do a bit of refactoring. I'm going to try to move a lot of the code out of the main form so as the main form don't get too massive. Anyhow, thanks for watching if you did.